back. This is Face the Nation. Interesting facts coming into play. Let's start off this round with Mr. Chamga Jayaratna, former chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Jayaratna, we're talking about the resignation of a particular minister right now, but I want to drag your attention to a few months back. We saw something similar happening. We saw Tilak Marapan resigning from his portfolio, saying that there was conflict of interest. And then when there was a cabinet reshuffle, he again came into play. Now he's the Minister of Special Assignments. So a resignation alone is not the answer for this problem at hand, isn't it?
The people's attitudes have to change. Professionals' attitudes must change. The minister's attitude must change. And the leaders who run these countries, their attitude must change. Now, first, if you remember, President from London, when this particular thing blew up, sent a message from London to say that he'll come here and appoint a commission. Now, that was doosrad by a 3-member committee. Now, like this will go on, you'll get a resignation and we'll carry on. What we need is to put structures, systems, and as long, I'm not saying they have to be punished, but let us not look for a resignation and all clap that we have achieved and go to sleep. Too much of this country's money, public finances, and this country's future is being gambled upon and being played upon by those who are interested in themselves and their friends, and they are not following good governance, transparency and ethical conduct. So we must demand these things to change.
Mr. Jayaratna, when you say about ethical conduct, when you say about accountability, all this seems to be very nice words, but can it be practically put into the mind frame of our politicians? Isn't it the responsibility of the people at the end of the day?
Absolutely.
When they're electing the people, when they're electing their public representatives, to know who they're voting in?
Election is not elections also. Look at what happened in these elections. People who were not elected were thrown out, also were appointed members. So that itself is not governance. Elections alone, whoever who comes there must not then think that they are everything and go ahead. They must be held accountable. Let's just look at what is happening to each and every single. Now, these individuals have had some of the cases against them in the past, right? All those, are we going to forget everything wrong they have done with just a resignation over an apartment?
So you mean to say that in that case there are others in the government who should resign? Because I recollect in this
very show, if the loss is 130 billion or whatever as they estimated somewhere, let's not go get into that. At least more than half of that has come or will come out of the EPF. Whose money is this? Why didn't the minister in charge of the EPF do his duty by those people, the poor people of this country, and appoint a committee to look into it? Why was those who were running it were able to play around by not one day not saying he was sick and not come and put a bid, other day he says he overslept and didn't come and couldn't put the bid. I mean, we are allowing us to be taken for a ride. So all we must do is to put, firstly, we must charge all these people, we must recover all this money. My colleagues don't agree, but I would have taken the taxes. First thing, at least the taxes should have been imposed on 3 taxes that Perpetual has not done. It should have been recovered, not wait for a commission. That's one. At least 30% of the amount they made we can recover. Having done that, if they have taken this in, that's a tax you charge, and when you find that the money is wrong, take the entirety of the money. They must pay for it. That is one. But let us put structures and systems into place. Let us get people to understand that they can't let these people get away. I mean, somebody who has the gumption to come and do the performance they did before a commission, knowing very well, now the governor of the central bank ruled for so long despite all of us shouting. So, but that is because we didn't have the people's support.
I think, Mr. Jayaratna, you're bringing in a very important point, because I recollect some time ago it was revealed in a Sunday newspaper as well that Mr. Dayagamage's son, who was bidding for a construction work on a particular highway. And Mr. Dayagamage, who was the minister, said that I was not even aware of this. Again, conflict of interest, and this very person is
he also said that he had not read the cabinet papers to know that.
Yeah, and that very minister is now demanding the resignation of Ravi Karunanika as well. So where is ethics? At the end of the day, there has to be a system and a structure in place. We take note of your statement, Mr. Jayaratnam. I now move my attention to Dr. W. Vijayawardena, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Dr. Vijayawardena, I want to delve a little bit about the past as well. And the statement that was made by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe yesterday. He said that he appointed a 3-member committee and he said that he is hell-bound to ensure that everyone is arrested and brought to book. There cannot be thieves. He made a very, very, very remarkable statement yesterday in Hatton, and then he went on to say that he appointed this commission in question as well, which is now sitting. That was not the case.
Well, of course, the 3-member committee was appointed, Samir, because the president at that time was in China, not in the United Kingdom. He was in China, and from China, when the president was briefed by the market participants, there had been a huge scandalous auction has taken place in the central bank. He sent instructions that there should be immediately a commission should be appointed. In order to overcome that problem, the 3-member committee was appointed by the Prime Minister. But of course, if you look at the terms of reference of the 3-member committee, Samir, it was not to examine the particular bond scam that had taken place on the 27th of February. The 3-member committee was expected to examine the bond issues from 2012 onwards till 2015, and that's what they did. And as a result, the report that they submitted was exactly as expected. It didn't touch upon the particular bond issue, but they had made several recommendations regarding the particular bond issue. They had said the loss has to be calculated by a competent authority. It merits further examination by a proper investigating body. And also they found that there has been some people inside the central bank who had been collaborating with this particular primary dealer. So they had recommended that all these people should be examined. Now what we have to see is that the Prime Minister had enough opportunity to go ahead with a good inquiring body, because there were lots of people who had made that recommendation regarding that, but of course that was not done. A good example is that in the middle of March, I also wrote an article to the Daily FT under my series. I compared that in fact there had been a bomb explosion in front of the central bank in 1996. I said that the bond explosion that had taken place within the central bank on 27th of February had done much damage to the reputation of the central bank when it comes to the bomb explosion in 1996. I had a good reason to say so, Samir, because in the bomb explosion, when the central bank was attacked by the terrorists and when one of the wings was on fire, one wing had completely collapsed, the employees in the currency department of the central bank, they had taken out for the day's transaction some 800 million rupees, and they could have walked out of that money without being known by anyone. But what they did was, despite the threat to their own life, they collected that money, put them into the trunks and took down the trunks to the walls, closed the walls, doors, and came out of the bank building when the bank was collapsing. So that is the type of integrity and the genuineness of the central bank employees, and that's what Mr. Chandrayatna was saying.
And now there is broad daylight robbery at the central bank.
I mean,
in the last
the
2
people
years.
who had joined the central bank recently, they had done that much of a damage. So the Prime Minister should have taken action immediately, because he was the minister responsible for central bank for administrative purposes, to correct it. But that was not done, Samir. That is the mistake that we have made.
Thank you very much.
But about this, you had asked about the bond commission.
This was solely appointed by the President of...
Yeah, it was appointed by President, and there was no any support from the government at all.
So there is no way that the Prime Minister can take credit
Nobody can take credit for that except the President.
Thank you very much, Dr. W. Jivardhana, former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. I now move my attention to Mr. Govind Dayasri, Senior Attorney at Law. Ms. Dayasri, interestingly, at the Commission, the two women who has helped this man, Mr. Ravi Karunayaka, build up his business, the so-called business, were thrown under the bus by the Foreign Minister himself, saying that my daughter and my wife are the ones who have done this deal, so I'm not aware. If that is the case, does the Presidential Commission of Inquiry have the leverage to have these two individuals as witnesses, call them as witnesses and start investigating the matter further as to why they did it?
I mean, it is a very important question, and I think it must be handled very carefully and very technically, perfectly, because otherwise this commission will be attacked in the next court. They'll take it up to the Court of Appeal and then to the Supreme Court on ultra vires. Now the powers of the President, of the present commission, is restricted to the warrant. I repeat, restrict to the warrant. Now we are all very interested, very enthusiastic, very keen to get many findings, as Mr. Sutripara said, on many matters. Now, but I would like to address, especially if any of the commissioners are now listening to this talk here, show, please keep to the warrant, because if you step outside it, that is just what the people who have done all the wrong will want you to do. Don't say, I don't think Mr. Sutripala was correct when Mr. Prasanna Jayawardena would never have said that we can't believe you or something like that, because they have been very careful. They have been giving both sides a very good hearing. They have been impartial. They have been asking questions, relevant questions, so that this commission, if they, I might give you an example. Now this question of this transaction with these two ladies, as far as the first transaction is concerned, it's directly relevant to the warrant, because perpetual treasuries are a player in the bond scam, and they have given money to an interested party who has many interests, like the Bank of Ceylon, the EPF and NSB and the bank. The number of institutions were under the finance ministry. So a finance minister cannot benefit. But as far as this question of money coming from abroad, whether it is brought by a customs declaration, I don't think so. I think it is money found in Sri Lanka now that is being put into the safe. Now those
this is not in the mandate of
it may not
the
be,
commission.
and that is precisely, I'm talking with a little experience, because that is the very thing we created in Mrs. Bandaranaike's case. The week when they are before the commission, and I'll tell you very interestingly, there were no tape recorders or Marshal Tito, the president of Yugoslavia, gifted Mrs. Bandaranaike with a briefcase which was a recorder. And she made a stunning speech attacking the commission, saying we won't participate for the very reasons that you are biased. What did they do? They played to the headlines. They gave it very often. Mr. Veeratna, Mr. Abhay Surya, Mr. Veeratna, Mr. Sharvananda and Mr. Alvis made many statements. It was a sitter of a case. We went to the Supreme Court within matters of few hours. The Supreme Court knocked it. They said it's null and void. You have exceeded your warrant. Now here too, what they are waiting is for the three commissioners to go outside the warrant. They are bringing in irrelevant evidence. Now that is relevant, but I would say relevant. The commission must be prudent and careful to consider that, but not make recommendations.
So what you're trying to say is, Mr. Dayasri, right after this, the recommendations are filed, the Attorney General's Department can go to the magistrate and ask for a warrant against money laundering or anything of that.
Once the recommendations are given, I'm sure people like Aloysius and the perpetual treasuries will take up to the Court of Appeal saying it's invalid. Now that, I want the commission to be concerned of two things. One is they please keep to the warrant. They can consider the matters. But
don't the Attorney General's Department have that right?
No, Attorney General's Department is prosecuting. Attorney General's department can, if they file action, can go to court and defend it. They can't go to somewhere else. And of course, if the case is dismissed,
can't they ask for a warrant to arrest these individuals in question?
No, they can't, because
Why is that?
Because there is no, at the moment it's only recommendations, Shamir. But like in Mrs. Bandaranaike's case, if you remember, Supreme Court knocked it down on the basis that it's an illegality, but the Jaya Jayawardena brought a motion in Parliament making that decision null and void and giving effect to the recommendation. So there is precedent now for this government to give effect to these recommendations without going through another process of laws. What's the use of going through another process of law when you have two Supreme Court judges sitting there? You don't need to go through, once again, through district courts or magistrates court, up above to the Court of Appeal, High Court. You can go directly.
What's going to happen next?
So next nothing.
So you have the recommendations, give it to the President, and the President has to act on it, is it? Or
the recommendations are given to the President. The President then must send it to the Attorney General. The Attorney General must consider it and then advise. The advice I give is the advice that President Jayawardena did. Don't go through another trial. Don't waste time. We had wasted enough time on this.
But the point right now is, Ms. Dashri, there is already a political tug of war in Sri Lanka for power. We see this happening across the board, may it be the President or even the Prime Minister. We are looking at an election next year, at least, a provincial council election. There is a political tug of war. Would these recommendations that are submitted go under the carpet if that's the case?
It shouldn't, because...
No, but it can happen based on what you're saying, because the President will have to direct it to the Attorney General's Department.
It could
and
happen,
the Attorney General's Department will not have the right to go to courts independently on this.
The Attorney General's Department can give effect. There is no necessity to go to any further case. If the recommendations are against X, Y, and if that is given legislative power, I'm talking of legislative power. If there is a motion in Parliament saying give effect to these recommendations, like in Mrs. Bandaranaike's case, she was stripped of civic rights for 7 years. She couldn't contest elections. Now why can't they bring that same procedure and find people who have been found guilty before these people, give punishment to them accordingly?
Thank you very much, Ms. Dashri. I think Faraz and Charita would be delving deep as to what are the criminal procedures and can that really be done in a court of law. I'm going to pose a question to Mr. Rusirpal Tennakon, and then Faraz, it's all yours, and Charita's. The floor is yours. Now there was a no confidence motion, Mr. Tennakon. Now, who signs this no confidence motion? 32 MPs from the joint opposition. Among them, Mahinda Nadugamagi, who has been summoned to the FCID, Namal Rajapaksa, who has been summoned, remanded, and if I say that most of these individuals are already claim to be those who were corrupt in the previous government, are going and filing a no confidence motion. Don't you think this is a little bit hilarious? You know, you have people who are already having a bad name going to the Parliament and saying let's oust these people. Don't you think so?
Can never say, because it's all the more suspicious, because most of the investigations that went on against these people in the so-called joint opposition are remaining dormant for some unseen reason. So this no confidence motion also can be something just that they are playing to the gallery on the one hand, and on the other hand they are also helping the people who are in trouble to play for time. Now Ravi Karunayaka can take up the position, well, there is a motion before Parliament, I'll wait till the motion is debated, I don't want to run away. I mean, he can very well say that. So that means the joint opposition has helped really Ravi Karunayaka and not done anything more. So you don't know what these people are doing. The whole entire trouble is...
In a span of 2 years, Mr. Nakon, 2 no confidence motions tabled against Mr. Ravi Karunayaka.
What does it make? What is the difference? They made one, they lost it. Now they are making another one. They paved the way for Ravi Karunayaka to say, if possible, I don't know, well, I will wait for the no confidence motion in Parliament. I am a member of Parliament. I want to face this situation.
Mr. Tennakon,
and he will play for time.
Do you think, Mr. Tennakon, that Mr. Ravi Karunayaka, there is something that is hidden already? There is something that he is not revealing. And he should do it at least now. If there are individuals who are connected to this bond scam, it's not still too late for him.
That is entirely left to Ravi Karunanayake. But people who we suspect as connected will want to safeguard that situation for their own sake. Now, if you look at this thing...
When you say own sake, who are these individuals?
No, I see there are a lot of other involvements in this.
Example.
Can I ask a question from the public? Whether perpetual treasuries can perpetrate such a fraud by themselves? Answer this simple question. Who are they? They can't do a thing unless they are supported by the government, by the officials, by those in power. That is what has happened. So this investigation will have to reveal who the people who help perpetual treasuries to perpetrate this massive fraud.
So given the statement that was made by Onila, who is Ravi Karunayake's daughter, why is my father being only singled out?
Yeah.
Again, it goes on to show that there are big guns behind this.
There are many. You take, for example, the first statement made by the Prime Minister in Parliament on the 17th of March. I mean, for me, I don't know, this has not caught the eye of many people. In his statement, he says, I appointed the committee on the 27th of February itself. I am taking the full responsibility for this statement. Now, this bond transaction happened on the 27th. The Prime Minister of the country says the Parliament, in the Parliament, that he appointed a committee of inquiry on the 27th. And then, on the 24th, now this emanated at the last evidence on the day that we went there. On the 24th of February, the Prime Minister's office had a meeting in Parliament, for the Economic Committee met, and they discussed about the additional funds required. They never mentioned anything about 15 billion required. The decision was tabled by the Attorney General's Department. The decision was to say that now we will not go to any additional development work. We will manage with the available funds. This was tabled by the Attorney General's Department. Now on the 26th of February, 4 individuals go there and take a decision that there is an urgent need of funds. And in that committee, the advisor of the Prime Minister, Malik Samaravikrama, participate in that meeting. Now, these are all matters that has to be gone into in this inquiry.
So,
there are so many people, so many things that they have not inquired into it. So, it is not a question of perpetual treasuries breaking open a safe and robbing money.
So Mr. Nukun, you are trying to say that, in other words, that there needs to be other individuals also coming to the commission and testifying, like Malik Samaravikrama, Kabir Hashim, and even we have the governor of the central bank already, the former governor of the central bank already testifying. So are you suggesting that, or?
I am not aware whether they will be summoned, but from what has transpired and what has come out so far, if it is a proper investigation, and if we come to the conclusion that perpetual treasuries alone cannot perpetrate this big robbery, they should be supported. Who supported them also has to come to light.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nukun. So I open the floor very quickly to our journalist. So far, let's start off with you.
And I'd like to pose this question to Mr. Jayaratne, please. Mr. Jayaratne, we spoke about ethics and so on. Is ethics something that one learns, or does it come inherently? Can we teach these people ethics?
Ethics are what you grow up with. Ethics are some things that your teachers and parents and others teach you. But also, people can be forced to be ethical if people are surrounding you are ethical. Or if you are surrounded by people who are unethical, you will be influenced by them to do unethical things. But more importantly, if you are holding public office, you have a requirement by the fact that you are holding public office to conduct that requires you to be ethical and behaviors in one way. And that must be, they are codified, in other countries? If it's not codified or codified, the people should demand from these public officials or anybody who's holding public office to account and be accountable for ethical conduct.
So, do you see a breakdown of that ethical conduct in this sad saga, Bondgate?
Absolutely, absolutely. From the very first instance, it was seen that that's because information of a critical nature appears to have gone, there seems to have been insider information. Now, not to have insider information, not to benefit out of a transaction in which you are a party to it. If you have any interest, declare, stay out of it. These are ethical conduct. All of them have been broken by all these people from day one.
And
Yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Rusripala, what do you have to say? This country, but no, actually, I'm going to ask this to Mr. Jayaratne. Sorry. Mr. Jayaratne, noblesse oblige. Do you think Ravi Karunanayake is going to be doing that?
Well, I don't think anybody who's involved with this is going to do what they should do correctly, because they are too much into this and they have been able to get away up to now. Not only them, their predecessors and those to come. We need the change. Public must demand a change in the people, that if they are not ethical, if they are not transparent, if they are benefiting out of transactions some way or other, or they are amassing wealth, that the people push them out.
Mr. Dasri, in this instance, do you think Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe will stick to the principles of noblesse oblige?
I think Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe will want to hang on to office to come out clean in this incident, because I think already his name has transpired. He had a lot of integrity. That was the only thing that went for him with among his 27 defeats that you listed.
29.
And I think Ranil Wickremesinghe has many people who will surface if he wants to make a total disclosure, and including himself. So I don't expect Ranil Wickremesinghe or Mahinda Rajapaksa, I don't know whether he even participated in the last debate concerning this gentleman.
But I don't think we ought to bring his name here, because what's the point?
No, what I say is this is orchestrated. These rascals, whoever they are, they have both teams working for them. Whether they are in the end of the day, it's money. They pay. It's corruption.
So there's nothing noble about them.
There's nothing, not question of nobility, but it's that politics have become so dirty that nobody is entering. So that you got to change the present leadership right round and bring a new leadership, and that only the parties can do. And my fear is that Mahinda Rajapaksa and Ranil Wickremesinghe are acting in tandem. If Ranil drops, Mahinda falls. If Mahinda drops, Ranil falls. So I think this combination is the first that we must get out of the way, and then Sirisena. Sirisena, I don't think, knew all this, but he can be effective without wasting time. I mean, the no confidence motion will bring the government into discredit, which means the country is brought into discredit. That is why I am appealing to Ravi Karunanayake, resign early and come clean, or get home, go get out of the country, or do whatever you want. But the law must follow. The law must follow them. The long arm of the law will work through the commission. I think we are at the best possible place with the best 3 judges for the moment.
Mr. Jayaratne?
Ms. Dashri, very quickly, you said about justice. My question to you is, Ms. Dashri, can legal action be instituted against Arjun Mahendra, who is a Singapore national, on a case like this?
Yes, he can, because he is the governor of Sri Lanka. Furthermore, if this commission recommendations are legislated, then it's instant fast-track action.
Now, Dr. Vijayavardhan, on the point right now, we brought this issue up last 2 weeks ago as well on the show. all said and done, are we going to recover this money which we lost, the colossal amount of money? We put the figure approximately at around 12.5 billion, but then again, no one has done a proper computation as to how much money we've lost as a nation on this. Can we recover this money? Because the question mark right now is, can we recover this money and utilize it for something that is in need? Can we do it?
Yeah, I think we can do it now, Samir, because one of the mandates of the Commission is to find and recommend where this money has gone. And that's why they are examining into the apartments that Minister Economic has
So
got.
when you say that these apartments that have been purchased can be confiscated?
Yeah, part of that, yeah. They may be confiscated, and the Attorney General's Department can institute legal action to recover that money now through the legal procedures of the country.
Mr. Jayaratna, I always think that trust is like an eraser. Every time you use it, there is always a part missing. Do you think that there is no eraser for this government now? There is absolutely none. The trust has completely faded away.
Well, still they can, by being what we have agreed to do, what we have discussed up to now, they do the correct thing, and balance of the period, they serve the people. I don't think the eraser can be thrown away. Eraser is still available. They can erase by only doing the right things we have discussed up to now.
And stop making mistakes.
And not make any more mistakes. Yes, hand over power to those who will run the country correctly under President and whoever who's going to be running the country together with him. They have 3 years, or nearly 3 years.
2.5.
2.5, okay.
Yeah, Mr. Jayaratna, I have a question for you. Now, on the back of the first bond scam, there was a second. If you look back, what things did the leaders do wrong back then to prevent the second bond scam?
Absolutely nothing. And they, I think, are definitely a party to having allowed the second one to go. Because moment the second one happened, they should have reacted, not wait for a commission. I mean, the second one, I mean, if the first one could have been a mistake, whatever, the second one was a deliberate scheme. Because they took, if I think in the previous program I presented the ones, they let off the ones which had small periods, no bids, and no high allotments. When it came to the 14 and 16 years or something, I can't remember the figures now, large increases were allowed more than what was bidded. So that was a perfect scheme. That is a conspiracy. Anybody who has been involved in that conspiracy, who allowed it to happen, and once it happened, once all in society was doing, they had the people who had done continuing, people at the central bank as well as outside. I would like to ask why witness after witness comes to the bond inquiry and says about, we knew it, we couldn't speak. If we spoke, we did something, our jobs are at stake. I mean, this is not the culture. Where is whistleblowing? Where is the controls? Where are the compliances?
Mr. Ratna, we have to agree that the papers that were released from the Central Bank of Sri Lanka as whistleblowers contributed immensely. I think Dr. Vijayabharatan would also second it. We had many reports that came to light because of the former governor's actions, and we use it as a basis.
But that all happened after he had left the place. All those reports came afterwards.
Mr. Dashri, quite interestingly, Mr. Dashri, interestingly, you have three gentlemen onto your left. One of them strongly believe that resignation is not the way to go right now. We have to have accountability structures and ensure that ethics govern our nation. But do you think all this is practical given Sri Lanka's mentality? we have politicians who are hell-bound to get something done. We see this with President Mahinda Rajapaksa being defeated twice, being defeated once at the last presidential election, trying to come to the forte again, because he clearly knows that the 19th Amendment of the Constitution does not even allow him to contest. And then you have President Rajapaksa's two brothers who are dual citizens. Again, they can't come to the forefront. You have issues like this, but still the power-hungry nature of these gentlemen come to light. So do you think that ethics can govern a country like Sri Lanka, a third world country?
No day, nowhere. Especially in a country where the opposition and the government are both corrupt, they work in unison, it's orchestrated. If one side comes, now the best example is we have so many inquiries against the last government. How much of not a single iota of evidence has been laid in any court after 2 years. All this is a sham. You have to have people.
But Mr. Vadash, you're the
what is the answer?
who just said that the Attorney General's department is doing a good job, and now you're saying that they're not doing a good job.
No, my position is, in this particular case, there are few people in the Attorney General's department who do very good work. But most of the Attorney General's department so far hasn't shown that mettle. My answer to the future of Sri Lanka is simply this. This question of concept of good governance is of no value unless you have leaders who actually give effect to good governance. We have two sets of leaders who are not doing it. Let's get another set of leaders now into the saddle.
Mr. Tenakon, I have a question for you. How much of responsibility do you think the UN that falls on the UNP on this whole process? Now, if you look back, the attempt to influence the COPE report, the footnote incident, do you think it happened because they didn't have this kind of information that is available today? Or do you think it was a deliberate attempt to hush things up?
I think from the very early stages, my own humble opinion, as well as the opinion that is expressed by very many people who studied this in detail, have very clearly said that, you know, the UNP had enough reasons to cover it up, because there was so much of involvement as a party. The UNP as a party had in this thing. You know, that is why now today, a very strange thing, no, the Ravi Karunanayaka's statement is, no, nobody has asked me to step down. Just analyze this statement a little further. He is waiting till somebody to ask him to step down. Now, if nobody asks him to step down, he will not step down. Now, does it also mean that he knows that people who are responsible for asking him to step down will not ask him to step down? For some reason. I mean, this is how we analyze things, no? Logically. Now, if he says, I have not been asked to resign, does it mean it is like his master's voice? No. It remembers me my old gramophone, you know, his master's voice. Somebody has to ask me to do it. Now, does it also mean that all what he did as alleged in the bond scam were things done as told to him by somebody?
Mr. Rusipala.
I don't know. These are logical conclusions.
But Mr. Rusipala, hasn't the President asked him to step down?
No official statement so far.
No, but it was there in the newspapers, uncontradicted, undenied.
So many things. Until they are denied, we don't know. Until they are confirmed.
But they have not been denied.
Now, Mr. Dastri, come here in the conversation there. Mr. Rusipala, a viewer of Newsline has sent us several questions, but I'll give you two. How can Ranil Wickremesinghe do anything about the bond scam, as he may be a party to it, or at least he knew about it? Second question, is it possible that Ravi's wife and daughter traded in bonds? Did Ravi know?
Well, the first question is, from the beginning I have been making this point, you know, this is not a fraud that can be committed by a primary dealer himself. There has to be patronage, there has to be planning, there has to be facilitation from the top, and which we have seen from day one. The very appointment of the governor, the declaration of the immediate requirement for additional funds when there was no such requirement in the cash flow statement given by the finance ministry. All these are actions as part and parcel of this game. So, and the worst situation is the Prime Minister unfortunately appears to have defended the thing right throughout, which is, in the eyes of the public, is a very suspicious thing.
Mr. Jayaratne, what about you? What do you say about this? If the minister's wife and daughter had traded in bonds, would that be unethical?
Yes, if they had inside information, which they are presumed to have because the father was a party. If conflicts of interest, by definition, the Companies Act goes on to define who's a related party. The related party includes a spouse, children, dependent children, father and mother, and stepchildren.
Dr. Vijayawardena, now all this happened not through the central bank, the apex financial institution of a country that manages, regulates banks. How hard is the task for the current governor to sort of rebuild the credibility of the central bank?
Well, it's a very difficult task, Charita, but of course Governor Kumaraswamy had already started doing that. One thing is that 1 week ago the central bank reintroduced the direct placement system, which had been abolished by the previous governor. Then he is actually waiting for the results of the bond commission to take action against the officers who have been named in this particular scandal. So likewise, step by step, but very slowly, he is building up the reputation of the central bank.
I would also like to add on the March 2016 one, there were others, so let's not only stop with Perpetual. There are at least 3 more people who seems to have followed the trail. So did those, I think, I heard your person there stating that the commission will look at 3 other names.
3 other names as well.
I hope they are also looked at, because we can't let bad examples let go by one become institutionalized. So it's important that we change not only one set, anybody who followed must also pay a price.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your thoughts. We're now going for a short commercial break. When we come back, it's the final round. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation. What is the future going to hold? All this and more after a short commercial break.